Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and I am joined by two beautiful gentlemen who have graced us with their presence. We are talking about 2023, an extremely busy year for gaming. Jake Baldino, Skill Up, welcome to the channel. I appreciate you guys making the time.
Always good to see you, man. Long time.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
The last time we did
What
was
was the
like
last time we
18
did this?
months? Was it 18 months or so? I feel like it was like 18 months.
Yeah. It was just you and I last time. Now we got Jake in the
That's
groove
right.
here.
Thank
Correct.
you, Frank. I love being included. Thanks for carrying me along. I appreciate
Jake,
it.
you have
And
a
I
rep
am
in my
beautiful,
house,
so
man.
thank
You do. You're known as the cool guy in my house.
It's true. It's true.
I swear on my life, I swear, because when I came home from an event I met you at, I was like telling my fiance about like, the event. She's like, "How was it?" I was like, "Who'd you meet?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I met Jake. Like I watched a lot of his videos." I was like, "He's really cool." So anytime I'm watching your videos now, she's like, "Oh, is that the cool guy?" so
That's
you got a rep, man.
I'll tell her thank you.
Of course.
That's great.
Anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here. I love your content. I love your approach to games, the reviews you do. Respect your opinions a lot. And so I thought what we would do is review 2023 effectively. Our favorite games, least favorite, worst games, whatever it may be. Just kind of pick some highlights out from the both ends of the spectrum. Talk about our current review process and kind of end on a high note of what we're looking forward to in 2024. I'll start off with you, Ralph. I'm curious, what game jived with you the most this year? We're here at the end of the road. So many good things to play. What was like your number one?
I mean, I wish I could be more interesting because obviously it's Baldur's Gate 3, and it's like it's hard to have Game of the Year conversations this year because it's like, well, obviously it's Baldur's Gate 3, but what about after that? No, but the reality is, yeah, like Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, I played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 back in the day at launch, you know what I mean? And Baldur's Gate 2 in particular was like definitely one of the most important and formative games for me growing up. It really expanded my view of what video games could be. I think it as a text that you could read, I think it has like a couple of million words. It's probably the longest thing I've ever read. You know what I mean? And yeah, just remarkable. And I remember seeing Baldur's Gate 3 announced from Larry, and I'm like, okay, cool. Those guys make Divinity. That was apparently a good game. I only played like a couple of hours of it. And I'm sure they'll do a good job with Baldur's Gate 3, but they're not going to be able to like really recapture the magic of, that was a whole different time, whatever. And then I was away when I was on vacation actually when Baldur's Gate 3 hit. And I think in the production like you guys know this as well. We look at a game like Baldur's Gate 3, it's 130 hours. And it's so hard to devote the time to that because you need to think about, well, I could be making like 4 or 5 other videos while I work on this, But I was like, but I started playing it and then I was like, no, I can't not play this. And so I played 130 hours of it. And in the end, I didn't even make a video about it because that's a whole other story. But yeah, it was just such an overwhelming experience that I really struggled to find the words. I tried to write that script multiple times.
It's
multiple
tough, man.
times. But I couldn't find the words. And I think I have this problem a lot with the games that I really love. Like I've never reviewed Outer Wilds, for example, because I just can't think of the words to put it to do it properly, And so that's the challenge I've had with that game because it was just so impactful, so just the construction of it was so remarkable, just the scale of it unbelievable, just incredible, by every single metric. Just a phenomenal achievement. And so
when you're writing when you're have writer's block with Baldur's Gate, are you literally like, no, this doesn't work, and you're ripping out pages and stuff?
I've probably written at least, like, I have a script together now that's like maybe 6,000 words that I think this is shit, but I think I must have thrown out at least another 5,000 to 10,000 words over the last couple of months where I just try and write it. I'm like, all of this is garbage. I hate it. And I've done exactly the same thing with Final Fantasy 14 and Outer Wilds, but it's just like, it's so hard when you get to these games that really mean something to you. You really want to say something about them, and it's hard. It's hard to find the words sometimes when they're.
It's also with a game talked about so much. Like, what can you say that comes across unique and novel and thought provoking that hasn't been said before?
That's another thing as well. It's like, because I've seen some reviews, and there's some really fantastic reviews out there for Baldur's Gate. Like, what am I adding to the conversation? Not much. So do I need to say this? Not really. But look, all of that aside, Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, I'm yet to meet anyone who's finished it and it wasn't their game of the year. I'm yet to meet anyone in that who falls into that category. So yeah, truly incredible.
Jake, do you buck that trend, man?
It's like I definitely like I'm like that is the game of the year. Like technically, like you can tell, like it's incredible. But for me, it's kind of like neck and neck with Alan Wake 2,
Mm,
specifically because just Alan Wake 2 appeals to me more personally. Where my favorite genre of games is where you walk around, you shoot stuff, and things happen. Um, so I'm a big fan of just those good single player narrative games, and Alan Wake 2 for me just hit harder than a lot of other
Mm,
Remedy
mm,
stuff recently, and I really liked Control, but it hits so hard because it feels like like the Avengers team up of everything they've learned. Like you see echoes of like weird little tiny things from Max Payne 1 and 2. It's
oh, really?
Quantum Break where they
yeah.
started getting aggressive with their shooting. Control where they just really figured out presentation. And Alan Wake 2 just is all of that, and it still does the Remedy thing where it experiments, it tries to push the medium forward with like transmedia elements, and it's just cool. It's just cool as hell. It's just dripping with atmosphere, and I like spending time in these worlds. Like this year, more than anything, my brain keeps going back to Bright Falls or Watery or
Mm,
that gritty dream world noir New York. Like it just makes me really happy. Just seeing previews and like the trailers for the game, I was like, oh man, I really hope it's like that. And it turned out to be that and a lot more. I
Mm,
still think the survival horror gameplay is like really straightforward and doesn't totally wet the whistle as much as it could, but it gets the job done and it's satisfying. The shooting is good. Still got a really good shotgun.
yeah.
Just playing through it, there's like so many memorable moments. Obviously, the big song that everybody talks about,
mm,
that's huge for me. Like when a game has big moments like that, like Ashtray Maze in Control, that stuff sticks with me, and that's what sticks in my head. And my process is kind of I touch a lot of games throughout the year, even the games I don't review. Some of them I just download and play an hour of just to like know what's going on and see for gauging for videos and stuff. So there's so much crap in my brain that I just really try and hold on to like the things I continue to think about, the things
yeah.
I explicitly remember the most throughout the year. And there's a lot of stuff I don't remember, but I remember every single second of Alan Wake 2.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm the same way. To me, it's about that intangible, that memory, and it has to rise above so many other things you play. Alan Wake 2 is actually one I never got to. That
oh,
was one
really?
that, yeah,
No way.
I know, you know, Ralph. I was trying really hard to get to the review for that,
Yeah, you're right. You're
but
right.
yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have the time, and then there were so many other obligations that I was catching up on review wise. It was like I call it a business decision as a joke. Like you got to make a cut, put something on the
Yeah.
chopping block. It's like, all right, I guess I got to miss Alan Wake 2 and play it later. Um, that's one that I also didn't know if I was really qualified because when I thought about it some more, I was like, you know what? Like, I played the first Alan Wake a long time ago. I have not played Control, and I'm like one of those weird defenders of Quantum Break. Like, I always thought that game was kind of underrated. Like, I love the whole TV game hybrid. Like, I thought it was a really weird experiment that kind of paid off. And seeing how Alan Wake pulled that thread, I think I was watching your review, Ralph, or I'm not sure whose it was, but I remember seeing like it kind of flipping between like real life and the game. And I was like, oh,
Mm,
that's my weird brain's like, oh, that's like Quantum Break. Like, and that's what
yeah.
got me interested in that. So does it have a lot of elements from that?
It does
Oh yeah.
definitely. Yeah, yeah, it's
Ooh.
huge. That's like, and they really nail it because it's been kind of a thread throughout their games in the past, but it's always been a bit awkward or like it's had varying degrees of success. But I think it's just an unqualified success. Like they finally figured out exactly how to do this back and forth thing, and I think those real life like live action elements they actually kind of deepen your connection to the video game characters because you see them as these characters now like you
Mm.
see their real life faces and then you kind of superimpose that as you're playing through the video gamey aspects of it and it's never indulgent, it's never like too drawn out and too weird, it's just really precisely calibrated. Yeah, they've definitely cracked this part of the equation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's good to
just
see
I'd
them
say it's
finally get the
just weird
attention.
enough. Like
Yeah,
definitely I like what you said about how you kind of see the characters, like you transpose the character. And that
yeah.
totally works. And I think that was one of the things that stuck with me the most. Like
Mm.
seeing the Alan Wake physical actor in the game and then instant transition to
Mm,
actual him. It's a little jarring at first, but
mm,
then just a little bit further into the game, you're not even thinking about it. You're just
yeah,
engrossed in this new way of how they're portraying things.
for sure.
It's cool.
Yeah,
Mm.
it sounds like art. I like if you were to define
It,
game as art.
It is. It's like it's definitely like, capital C cinema, the gaming equivalent of like capital C cinema, and
Mm.
obviously that sounds like a bit of a wank, but it's rare to be able to say that of any AAA game. Most AAA games are summer blockbusters and they're big and bombastic and silly and whatever else, but like Alan Wake has this kind of art house sensibility that really shines through at every part without seeming like it's like sniffing its own farts too much. Many people disagree with that, by the way,
I'd
and
say
I
a
think
little
it's
bit here and
interesting.
there.
Well, like, maybe you're right. Okay, look, yes, you're right, but not too much, I think is the operative term. Like, it's not too
Yeah.
far up its own ass, right? And I think it's interesting to see some of the more critical reception to Alan Wake, because whenever I talk about Alan Wake, I don't know if you get this as well, Jake, but there's always some comments being like, Alan Wake 2, overrated, boring as fuck, whatever else, so pretentious. And it's like, okay, well, fair enough. Like, it's not for everyone. But I do think that on balance, like, it's as a AAA video game, there were no other AAA video games like it released this year. This is
Yeah.
this is the sort of weird esoteric shit that you see in the indie space where they can be weird and experimental and get away with it. AAA space, it's like it's too risky to do this stuff, but they did it, and yeah, full credit to them for that.
Yeah, and I think too, it's not to like use the hackneyed phrase, but like it does have something for everybody because it kind of is somewhat structured with two campaigns. So it's like you're getting the true detective, Silent Hilly kind of horror, the Silence of the Lambs thing, and then you're getting like weird Alan Wake, trippy, twisted Remedy stuff. And both of those angles let everybody at Remedy who works on this stuff kind of flex what they're super into. I mean, even just like from the writing, they let James McCaffrey. So James McCaffrey, voice of Max Payne, has pretty much shown up in a lot of their games. He had a big part in Control, and here they write for him, like they're writing for his growl. Like they let him chew the scenery so fucking much, and it's so fun to just sit there and like listen to that and just appreciate that.
I love that. Yeah, no, it's one that I'm looking to get to during like the holiday break and finally clean up and just see what everyone's been raving about, because it felt like this was the time to really celebrate Remedy. Like you can kind of feel with what little celebration we got during the Game Awards, like they were one of the big stars of the show, kind of like being put as a focal point, and a lot of people really getting behind them. So I want to see what all the buzz is about. So that's one that I definitely got to clean up.
Maybe you can wait around at this point. Maybe hopefully they come
The new
around
Game
and do a
Plus thing,
physical
right?
version, because I think it
Physical
should
version,
have a physical
yes.
version.
Yes.
I don't know. Has there been any hints of that? I don't think they've mentioned anything like that.
No.
I'd
It
be
just makes
surprised if
sense.
they don't ever do it. Like you got
I
to do
feel
it
like-
at some point. Like,
yeah.
come on, guys.
Yeah.
So
You'd
yeah.
hope.
How about you, Maddie?
Um,
what's your
yeah.
game of the year, man?
Hit us.
Well, for the sake of the conversation, because I'm with you, Ralph, like, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, just having,
Nice.
as someone who loves RPGs, like, having that tabletop experience in a game captured so perfectly, like, just, that's it. Like, that's what I've been looking for so long. But for the sake of the conversation, I actually, shout out my number 2, Lies of P. I think this is one that really came in and I think was quickly identified as like, oh man, I miss Bloodborne. Let me go check this thing out. And of course, you can feel its inspirations. I think that's kind of the charm of the game, is like you can feel from Final Fantasy to the FromSoft games. Like, yeah, they're a fan of a lot of things, even like movies, books. Like you can just see it. It's dripping with, to me, inspiration. That's how I've interpreted it. Like these are creators who are enthusiastic and very open about their source material. I mean, they talk about it in interviews and whatnot. And so playing it through at first, I'm like, all right, like cool. I can get down with another Souls. Like I miss Bloodborne a lot. Like many people just asking for this kind of remaster, remake, whatever the hell they're going to do with it. And with Lies of P, where it really started to grow on me is actually the main story. That's something that I think is really eluded from software. Like you bring in George R.R. Martin to build this world in Elden Ring, and the worlds have always been a spectacle in any FromSoft game. I think they've always nailed that, but maybe not the storytelling. We already joke a lot about, oh, you go to the YouTube side of things to get the whole narrative breakdown on a FromSoft game. And it's really cool what they build in there and the secrets like packed in these worlds. I think it's a big part of the charm. But I've always said, like, I would love to see what happens if a Souls game tries to tell this more direct story that's not overly guided, like, here's your waypoint, gamer, go over there, but just kind of has this overall narrative thread that's kind of pushing you from one point in the game to the next. And Lies of P does that in what's setting up this kind of fairy tale Souls-like universe. with an ending that I found incredible. Like, I'm very big on, if you stick the landing, you're going to leave a lasting impression, kind of like what you were saying, Jake. Like, when I finished Lies of P, like I put a few endings in high regard. I think of BioShock Infinite. I think of Nier Automata. Like, these are like top notch endings that just leave that lasting impression. And Lies of P was that, but more in this rare way that we don't get to experience in games anymore. Where when I finished it, it was that excitement of what's to come. Like, like normally this stuff gets ruined so quickly in the conversations online, and very little is left to surprise. But it wasn't even just like the narrative punch that was there, but it was also like, and here's what's next. And that tease was that almost feeling you got at the start of the MCU. Like, you watch the teaser at the end, you're like, oh shit, they're doing that.
And it's
So
something
like,
you wouldn't have thought of. It's just like, oh,
yeah,
I'm excited for that.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I thought this was gonna be a one-off. Like, they did day one Game Pass. Like, they were probably not sure at first, like, how is this gonna go? And so, like, maybe there's a lack of confidence here. Like, I was kind of waiting for the shoe to drop somewhere, and it never really did. So yeah, the story, I gotta say, was like, I don't want to oversell it, because I know the story standards for like a FromSoft style game aren't necessarily high, but like the way they built these characters and some of the choices you can make throughout, like, do you lie or not, and how it impacts people around you. Like, they did a really good job with that, where I cared about P and the characters around him as much as the world, which never really had in a FromSoft Souls like kind of game. So that was really good, but it was also the refinement, just how finely tuned this game is. The toys they give you to play around with, where they give you a good challenge, make you feel powerful. Like, I wouldn't say it reinvents the wheel at all, but they combine elements from all these Souls. Like, you have the blocking of Dark Souls, the dodging focus of Bloodborne. You can deflect like in Sekiro, but then they'll add like these gadgets that you can use to like attach a wire to an enemy and pull them into you, or pull yourself to them. So they have the formula there, and then these new layers on top. But I just think the environment, the world, like this puppet frenzy that's completely wiped out civilization, leads to a lot of great moments of like environmental storytelling, like blood across a train station floor with like these puppets all lying about. You just have these moments of like, what happened here? And you can kind of piece together in your head maybe what occurred. And so I just think the game sparks the imagination so much that, like, from start to finish, it doesn't really overstay its welcome. It's like 25-hour game. You wrap it up, you're like, that was fantastic. Like, so many games are so long now. So I do appreciate when a game kind of understands its place, if you will, and is like, yeah, let's not soak up the entire play clock for the year. Like, let's kind of in and out. And when you have a good story in there, like, yeah, it definitely hung with me a lot. Like, of course, I love Baldur's Gate 3. It speaks to my tastes, my sensibilities more, but I thought I was kind of over after Elden Ring. Like, yeah, we've reached this peak. It's time to move on now. Maybe we'll get another cool FromSoft style game when they're ready to make one. But otherwise, like, these other pretenders, if you will, like, I don't know. And so I'm glad I gave it a shot, because it not only was like, oh, this is pretty good, but like, it ended up being in my top 3, which I never expected when I first started off. So yeah, it's phenomenal. I really do recommend it to people who are looking for that sort of Souls-like experience that kind of incorporates elements from everything we've seen since they really got things started with Dark Souls.
Is it
100%
true?
with you.
Because I actually didn't play it. I had Austin reviewed it on my channel, actually. Is it true, the stuff about the difficulty spikes, like kind of back third, it gets kind of wild? And
yeah, it has a moment or two for sure,
Okay.
where they definitely, it gets pretty difficult. The only other complaint I have is like the final dungeon is very like Zen's Fortress from Dark Souls 1, kind of like trap infested, like surprise,
Sure.
gank death,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
type of shit that'll make you rage. Like, it's a little bit of that, where I feel like they lose the focus in that like last chunk, but it's so brief that you make note of it, you mention it in your critique of the game, but not like a massive takeaway from the experience where it really was destructive. I think they do have a good balance, maybe not to a FromSoft level, but they have a good balance of like, okay, we're going to teach you something with this boss. Like, obviously Sekiro, like every boss is teaching you this new lesson that's adding to your toolkit that you're gonna have to combine all of that to beat the big bad at the end. Where this one, yeah, it kind of does teeter back and forth a bit, where it doesn't always quite strike the right balance of difficulty. So it's a good point there.
Interesting.
Not to like totally just make it a boring podcast, but I agree with everything you said. It's somewhere on my list, especially
Somewhere.
for me. I'm burnt on Souls-like games. For me, I always have to kind of like, I guess it's because it's like the nature of my job. Like, I always kind of like drag myself into them, and I'm like, oh man, another one of these, and then I end up loving it every time, especially with Elden Ring. But I'm like kind of over the like From Software, do your thing. I'm kind of like getting over the influence it's having on
Mm-hmm.
other games.
Sure.
And now,
makes
you
sense.
know, for years now, we're going to see more and more Souls-like games or adapted elements. Uh, but Lies of P was the one where I was like, all right, nah, this is pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I went into it for, you know, the aesthetic. I was like, I've wanted a game like this my entire life, visually, environmentally. But I was like, oh man, it's gonna be hard. I want to actually fucking see things in this game and not just get crushed by the first boss and bail on the game for a year and then come back. But I stuck with it because it had what you said, like all the options that the game slowly gives you, you know, with your arm, your weapon build out, all the tools,
Yeah.
lets you be a little experimental and a little
Mm.
creative. And like, you know, some builds give you a little bit of a leg up, some builds give you a little bit more of a challenge. And I like that flexibility.
Yeah.
It eased me into it more. And by the end, I was like, damn, this was good.
Yeah,
Mm.
right? Like it had to overcome that fatigue, which to me impresses me the most out of anything. Like the fact that it's like, all right, like I was pretty okay not playing another Souls like until FromSoft came around. They still like as a challenger just won my heart. Like that's tough to do, especially as you said earlier, Jake. Like we just play so much that you take all of that into account, and it's like it was a real uphill battle for it. So the fact that it made it into the top three, I just it's on Game Pass, so I hope people check it out.
And with the story too, like you said, with just uh them having a little something to say or them trying some things with like
Hmm.
lying and telling the truth and humanity.
Yeah,
I just like that it, you know, even if it was a little, you know, at the not at the forefront, but a little I don't even want to say on the nose, but just a little bit more direct than From Software, where
I
it's
saw what
just
you
like a
did
weird
there on the
NPC
nose.
giggles at you and you don't know what it means, but then you look it up on YouTube and you're like, that's the most brilliant thing ever written.
Yep.
You know, Liza P, it's pretty like, here's the questions we're asking. It doesn't always land, but I appreciate seeing those questions and thinking about them in a game where I didn't think any of that would come up. I thought it was
Yeah.
just gonna be like, you're cool, you're Timothy Chalamet, kill stuff. There's a little more.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. So let's shift gears here. I want to know for you guys, a lot of people say, and it's true, like 2023 has been just a historically good year for games. When you look at like the total aggregate of review scores, like it's definitely on the upswing. At the same time, I feel like, especially towards the end of this year, we just had this wild downturn with not high profile releases, but you look at like the day before, you look at games like from Game Mill, like who are publishing the likes of Skull Island and Walking Dead Destinies and the Avatar game. Like there were to me, it was like yin and yang. For every amazing game you got something like really bad too by the tail end of it all. So obviously we don't need to turn this all fully negative, but if there's something you thought was really bad this year that you want to call out, or something that just maybe disappointed you, like your least favorite, like, oh, it's not a bad game truly, but like it didn't resonate. We'll go back to you, Ralph. Like, was there something that you just didn't like this year?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the famous one is like Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, I can join you in that one.
That was a rough one. Yeah, I mean, that was actually my most anticipated game of the year, I think, really. I mean, I think we talked about that in the podcast. I don't know if you remember, Jake, like the year before. Like, what are we looking forward to most? I was like, yeah, Final Fantasy 16, massive fan of that franchise, including Final Fantasy 14. That team made 16. So not only are they making, like, they make incredible Final Fantasy, but they also are making a mainline like numbered
Mhm.
Final Fantasy game, single player. I was like, dude, this couldn't be any more perfect. I was like, let's go. And then yeah, obviously it came along and didn't really work for me personally, and I think it was a tough review cycle because I was kind of the only negative review on Final Fantasy 16. I think I copped a lot of flack for that. And yeah, I think ultimately though, quite a few more people came to share that same opinion on the game, right? And that's not to say that everyone agreed, because I think it's important to remember that like for a lot of people, Final Fantasy 16 is their game of the year, right? No question. Or they just straight up love it, because there are so many redeeming aspects to it. I mean, like Ben Starr's performance as Clive is just top tier,
Phenomenal. Yeah.
like just really so memorable. He absolutely crushed it. The presentation in that game is on another level. Some of the fight sequences are some of the most insane boss encounters ever put into video games. Like, they are unbelievable. And I think there are some characters that really stand out and you want to spend more time with them. And you're like, yeah, this, and the world as well was fantastic. And I think that this absolutely, for some people I know, it clicked and it just became this incredible experience. And I think as well, it also welcomed in a number of new fans to the franchise, people who didn't like turn-based combat. And they're like, well, I'll give this one a crack because it's real time. The guy that did Devil May Cry's combat, he's doing this. And a lot of people really enjoyed that, right? For me personally, it just wasn't very fun. Like, it's just, for me, the combat I just found a little bit too repetitive, because I just think the enemy sandbox was too weak. You know, you had different tools at your disposal without really needing to use them. I think the side quests were like diabolically bad and boring, even though admittedly, you know, people say they got better at the back end of the game. I'm like, well, okay, maybe. I kind of
After
stopped
50
doing the
hours.
side. Yeah, I stopped doing the side content after like 25 hours or whatever, because I'm like, it's been so dull to this point. Like, I'm done. I'm out. I do think the overall pacing of the game is also really bad. And it was familiar to me as someone who played Final Fantasy XIV, because that is a game with these massive highs. It's holy shit. And then all of a sudden you're like, go and collect me 10 eggs from down the road or whatever. Like, it's not actually that, but it's just, yeah. Anyone who's played Final Fantasy XIV's main story questline is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think as well, just that step away from the RPG elements of what the Final Fantasy franchise is about was just, for me, quite terminal. Like, the limited itemization, limited customization of your character, no party members that you could command, but also no party members narratively, I would say. And people kind of contest that idea, and they're like, no, you have Jill and you have Sid. It's like, do you really though? I mean, do you? I don't know. Like, well, we won't get into spoilers, but there are various reasons why I disagree with that. And so yeah, it for me personally, it was a big disappointment. I at the same time, I definitely recognize that this team put it all on the line. They did not half-ass this. They had a vision and they saw it right the way through. You know, this was not like, again, yeah, this is not a case of them phoning it in. This is a case of them just doing stuff that I didn't personally like. You know, and I know eventually quite a few other people didn't like it as well. And it's gone on to become quite a controversial Final Fantasy entry, for different reasons than other ones have been controversial. Because obviously, look at 15, for example, and you're like, well, clearly this is unfinished. Obviously, this should not have launched in this state, and it kind of got tidied up by the DLC. This was clearly a finished product, right? And then you talk about 13 and you're like, well, they're like, it's a corridor simulator, it's too linear and whatever. But I mean, I think history's been, I think, quite kind to 13 as well, particularly some of the spin-off stuff. So yeah, I think every Final Fantasy is always a bit controversial when it launches in its own way. This was similarly controversial in its own way. But I will say as well, just to finish, I do think history will be kind to this game, because I think people will accept it for all its flaws. Similar to Final Fantasy 15, there's a lot of heart in this product, and if you accept it for all its flaws and you look past all of its shortcomings, there's something there. Absolutely. Does that mean everyone will enjoy it? No, but I do think that everyone will respect and appreciate it on some level. That's certainly my prediction for the future.
Well said. Well said. Jake, how about you? I know your whole channel, your shtick is talk about things you like. So I rarely get to hear a thing you don't like. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, I have two. So one is like bullshit, but Gollum actually, listen,
you did not have high expectations for Gollum. Let's be real. Come on, man.
Yeah. Nobody needed a Gollum game, but if one was greenlit and it had to have happened, I think if a team really had all the time, all the money, something cool could have been made. I mean, there were people apparently on the Gollum game that were like Tolkien experts, Tolkien historians. There could have been something there. Yeah. There really could have been. And it was disappointing from that, but also disappointing from like the Tolkien estate, like signing off on that and being like, yeah sure. That sucks. Like, that's like, damn, that makes you kind of like second guessing. They redeemed themselves with the cool Magic the Gathering cards. Those are pretty sweet.
Oh yeah,
the art on those. I don't even play Magic. I just appreciate.
They're doing Fallout ones too. I'm like,
are they?
No way. Give me that all day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Nice.
But yeah, you know, I want more Lord of the Rings stuff, and it's been hard out there for us. But the big thing for me was City Skylines 2. I love me a fucking city builder, my dudes.
That's
Like,
so surprising.
is it
Like I
really?
like walking around shooting things with a gun. Also, I love city builders. You know?
I love sitting, like it's like my like games like City Builders or like Civ. I love just like
Sure.
sitting back with like a glass of bourbon at like 3 o'clock in the morning, just like raising and lowering taxes and managing traffic flows. It's so like weirdly satisfying. But City Skylines 2 is a bummer because uh it's essentially like a starting new foundation for the series, where the original City Skylines had a long life of both mods, but also a ton of support from the developer. They added a ton of cool stuff to that game over the years. So City Skyline 2 kind of was supposed to act as like a launch pad for the next generation of that, with a new foundation that's good. And it sort of is, but it feels like it's missing some things. It was missing some key things I really like to do, like granular little things like getting details. But the biggest thing that really hurt it and made me frown up, like look like just more sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. It ran like crap. It was awful. On multiple computers, I had such a poor experience, and I'm not usually the one to like, frame count and bitch, but this was beyond that.
Wow.
It just seemed poorly optimized. I spoke to some people that had a better time than me, but like on a high end PC, I was like, all right, we got 1080 30. Okay, good. And it was rough. So like they're working on it, but and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes down the line. But I was really excited, and it not a great first impression. I
Was
have
it?
faith in the developers still, but it
Was
was
it?
rough. It's
Was
funny
it?
though, because
Sorry.
the 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 release schedule has been so packed that when they announced City Skylines 2 was coming this year, I'm like, no, 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 we don't need that. I don't have time for that. Like, take your time. And they didn't. They put it out, and it was rough. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll see you in a year. That's fine. I'll see you in 2 years. But it bummed me out. So that's mine. City Skylines 2.
It was a bit of a trend this year, actually, like the whole shitty PC ports thing. Like, especially at the front end,
Yeah.
we had Jedi Survivor
Yeah.
and Wild
The Last
Hearts,
of
which were
Us.
like two really The Last of Us, like two, three really great games ultimately that were completely undone by their PC ports, and it's just but Jedi Survivor would still go on to be like one of the best selling games of the year. So it just goes to show that, like, ship it when you're ready to ship it. Sorry, ship it when you want to ship it, not when it's ready, and it still works because people still buy it. Do you know what I mean? It's a bummer.
I never talked about this in a video, but for The Last of Us, day one, that was in a really rough state on PC. And there was a point in the game, I don't remember what it was, but something happened and I got a complete black screen. And right as I got a black screen, I just hear Ellie. like Ellie was like Joel was like calling out for Ellie. It was so funny.
I think for me, I love Arcane, so it's got to be Redfall. Like that was one where I had my hesitations going into release, just not even by the preview, which was completely misleading, and that's a whole other conversation. But
Totally agree.
it was really the like leading in. I was like, okay, multiplayer, and like I understood the vision. Like I've been a huge fan of their games for a while, and like while I think they've all been phenomenal for the most part, Dishonored 1, 2. I've not played like their older stuff like Arx Fatalis, but like Prey, of course, Prey Moon Crash, like they all speak for themselves. Even if it's like Arcane Leon and Austin, like these teams just don't seem to miss. But like knowing Prey, that's the Arcane Austin team, like their next game here, multiplayer. I'm like, okay, you're like trying to popularize these series that, just aren't resonating quite like they should, maybe on a commercial level. And so like I get it. Like, okay, let's do this co-op game. Let's see if we can get like everyone to feel like Corvo and explore this open map together. Like, I'm not in love with it. I'm a pure single player guy, but you know what? Let's just see how it goes. And that sour taste I had in my mouth during that whole review, like I'm talking the frame one, you just immediately get that flip in your stomach. Oh, something's wrong. Something's not right here.
Yeah.
It was really when the gear turned was when I went to do a takedown and I just saw the elbow come out, and I'm like, oh, they don't even have like the choke out or a stab, a stake, nothing. Like I'm just punching them in the ass and they're just dying in that hit. That's it. That was where I immediately felt like, okay, something's very off here. And it went on to just, disappointed every single level. It disappointed when it came to the level design, which I thought was always Arcane's specialty. Like I think of even Wolfenstein Youngblood, which we know is like a pretty bad game, but like I could appreciate, you could feel Arcane's touch even in that, because it was like a co-developed game by them, where you could feel their level design there. It's like, this is probably the best part of this otherwise really bad game. So I feel like even in like a sea of garbage, like you could still see them kind of head and shoulders above the rest. So when even that was missing, like I was just walking away going like, what happened here? You know, and obviously we learned through various reports what had gone south, but like the gunplay didn't feel good. The level and explorations weren't great. You know,
no
the
enemies on the
multi
map.
hubs. Yeah, no enemies on the map. Right,
No
you could run from
walk around. You're like,
one.
is anybody alive out there? So.
Right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, like just completely empty, to the point where I was doing videos like testing the patches afterwards, and you know, I set a timer and I'm like, okay, let's run to this
I
end of
did
the map, and I'll
same.
go like 2 minutes, nothing, and I'm like,
I did the same.
Like,
Wow.
how did this happen? And
yeah.
you can now you see like the even in the aftermath, it's not like, okay, like let's recollect, like it's just didn't go well. It's like now you learn, oh, they've lost all of the staff that made Prey, or 75% they said. So it's like, who is here to kind of redeem this team? You have Harvey Smith still, who I think is a fantastic mind in our industry. So it was like also that moment of, you know, hey, Arcane got a delay through Xbox, where, you know, maybe this game could have turned out better. Like there was some excitement behind that as well. Like this is a big Xbox exclusive. Like it got delayed in 2022, leaving Xbox this year totally vacant. Like the pressure was on to deliver in some capacity, like an okay game. I don't even think it did that. Like even after all the patches, like I've gone back and tried to just give it some love and be like, okay, you work now, but it's not there, man. And that stinks, because we don't get many like vampire games. We get a lot of zombie games. We get like a vampire game. I'm like, oh shit, okay. Like,
there was that vampire battle royale game. Remember that one? What was it called again? From Shark Mob.
There was the Masquerade one or whatever.
No, it's called oh fuck, what was it called? Was it called Blood Hunt or something? I forget.
Oh yeah.
Oh, now
you could like no scope other vampires and shit. It was
like
third person, right?
Yeah, it was third person. Yeah. It's gone now, so yeah.
100 vampires drop onto an island.
No, literally though, that's actually it. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you on Redfall. It's it was staggering to play through it. Like it was honestly staggering, because you know, obviously you'd expect a product like that from so many other studios, you know, a little AA title or whatever, bit off more than they can chew. But this is Arcane we're talking about, and I remember seeing the reviews before I got a chance to play it, and I was like, what the fuck? And then playing through it myself, I still was not ready for just how bad it was, how unfinished it was. And yeah, I mean, Bethesda's, you know, they talk about like, oh, we're gonna keep working on it, we're gonna make it good eventually. It's like, well, I don't know, man. I don't think every game needs to be that, you know. Like, I think it's okay just to take some L's and be like, time to move on, it didn't work, and that's it, and just put that team on the next thing. I don't know, like this industry, I think it's great that some teams want to continue to work on their games to bring them back, and it makes a lot of sense in a lot of instances. But sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you're just like, you know what, Arcane tried to make a thing that they shouldn't have made. No one wants them to keep working on it. Let's just move on now, you know. But they're still at it. I don't know, or whatever, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you brought it up, Maddie. You brought it up too with playing after the patches and stuff. For me, it's like you can't patch in fun factor a lot of the time. Something was lost in translation in this game pretty early on, and it was like kind of apparent in the preview where I like walked away. I was like, the vampires are cool, but like, what's the hook? And ultimately, playing the final game, there wasn't really a hook. And that's a shame.
Yeah, the story too, like just slideshows.
Oh man, the presentation downgrade versus Prey was just astounding. You know, I remember that intro from, you had Mick Gordon, you had that intro flying through. It was just like that song crazy that comes in like bam, bam. You're like, fuck yeah, man! And then you get this awkward slideshow. Oh god, it was crazy. So look, I think as well, I just feel bad for those guys, because it's a very talented team. They obviously went through hell to make that, and that's another reason I think it'd be cool if they could just like move on from it, because then it's like, cool, that was obviously a difficult, scarring experience. Clean break, man. Focus on the next 100%. Thing. And I think everyone's cheering for them to come back and do the next big thing and do it well. I don't think anyone's cheering for them to like patch Redfall extensively and try and make it somewhat okay, you know.
No, if anybody deserves a second chance, it's definitely
Oh, 100%.
Arcane, regardless of
Absolutely. Yep.
which part of Arcane. Totally.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so we're rooting for them, but that's where I fall. So it's kind of the good and bad for us. As we kind of look to wrap things up here, guys, I just want to know, we review a ton of games, and I just want to know with how much has come out this year. I feel like we've all had to adjust one way or another our process on like how we get these games covered, and how much we can cover them and how we strategize our coverage. And I feel like we kind of get to offer this unique perspective behind the scenes that many outlets don't get to do, of like how we conduct business, because we're kind of just like, if you will, like internet personalities, so we get to connect with the audience in a different way. So Ralph, I want to jump it right back to you. How have you changed the review process at all, whether it be how you critique games, or I know you had added Austin into the fold a
Yeah.
bit to kind of cover more ground?
Yeah, so I guess it was a big year for me in terms of like changing that up, because like I do the news show as well each week, which takes up
Yeah.
a good chunk of my time. It's a big show. It's like 6,000 words every week, and a lot goes into it. And so with editing on top of that, and also going to events, which is important to me, because going to those events allows you to play things hands on and to meet developers and speak to them face to face. We also do the podcast now as well, Jake, and so that's another thing that
Wait,
we
what?
really enjoy doing. And so there's a lot on my plate, and that's why this year I thought, well, and the other thing as well is that like I really like Austin, right? He's very talented, like he really is, and I really believed in his ability to do more than just edit on the channel. And so I'd been thinking about it a long time, and I was going to go on vacation this year in July for a month, and I'm like, well, why don't Austin do some content on the channel while I'm away? I believe he can do that and nail it, and I think everyone will love it. And sure enough, they did. And he's putting up stuff on the channel now. He does really fantastic quality stuff. Like really, I'm like very, very proud to have his content on my channel. And I think that gives me more bandwidth. That gives us more bandwidth to be able to cover more stuff. And yeah, so I mean, outside of that though, I do think, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of put more pressure on myself over time, in terms of, I want the production quality to be better. I want my insight to be better. And sometimes I can suck myself out a little bit on reviews and just sort of, I don't know,
Sure.
struggle to put pen to paper, or struggle to really like get it done. But that's something I'm always working on, just to that's just something you kind of push through mentally. But I think process-wise, outside of that, it's pretty much the same. It's really grounded in like play the game, finish it, and then like think about. And the question I always ask myself is like, what happened to me while I was playing this, and then put that into words. And yeah, really, the lens is always like your experience, and obviously you can talk about some objective aspects within that. But it's ultimately a very subjective exercise about like what happened to me while I was playing this video game, and how do I put that into words for the audience.
Diarrhea.
I think if you say again,
what? Diarrhea.
Diarrhea, yeah. So some games, absolutely. So yeah, that's been pretty much it. But I will say there's some other stuff I've got cooking next year as well that I'm looking forward to announcing, with regards to like changing the process even more and adding some interesting stuff.
Nice.
So we'll talk more about that next year.
I can't wait to see. What about you, Jake? Because I know you do the before you buy, the the best thing about it. Like, so you're all over the place. So like, have you changed at all how you tackle things?
Yeah, for working with game ranks, it's definitely delegation. It's not just me trying to take it all on, because there's physically too much. So it's more the other, I guess, quote unquote personality, or whatever you want to call it, on game ranks, Falcon, with another editor behind the scenes, Eric Thielenhouse. It's a great team, and they've been taking on more games because I can't do every single one. And that's been good, because for the longest time, Before You Buy was kind of like my baby, where I was like, no, that's like the thing. Like, I helped make that thing this, and I need to do every single one, and I have to touch every single, but like I can't. There's too much. So kind of spreading out, getting like a different take on things, and having other people take on different games has helped me kind of like focus on the ones I do work on. And then on my channel, what I've really been doing is just focusing on the ones I really want to talk about, because frankly, there are some games we'll like take a look at for before you buy for game ranks, and I'm like, okay, like the skill tree is pretty good, the graphics are good, like this is a great story, and like yeah, you might like it, and that's it. And I don't need to waste people's time with another video on my channel because I have nothing really else to say.
Mm.
So for my channel, I've been focusing on something like if I actually have more to dive into, a little more to chew through, I will. And that's been fun. That's been really fun.
Yeah, man. I'm curious for you guys now that you're both kind of in this spot where you're delegating reviews, because I feel like I'm getting to that point as well. This year was a real test on like how much bandwidth I have, and I definitely think I was at my limit come the end of it all. Where my big change was like shifting to, certain times, like being okay with just delivering impressions in these specific cases, and then kind of developing this newish, I'll put in quotes, like series. I call it the final verdict, like, as in like, this is my final say on it. Like I'm doing it with Baldur's Gate 3 next. Like I delivered my impressions around launch after like 15 hours. And it's like, okay, now like 100 hours later, here's how things have changed. And like you sacrifice the views in that, obviously, which we know, like there's the importance of being there in that, like, I'd say 48-hour window to kind of deliver your thoughts in a succinct way that's valuable to the maximum amount of purchasers. So for me, I've been looking at like, okay, I have a similar situation as you, Ralph, where like my editor Locke is like fantastic. And I think he's super talented. And I feel like he's more than just an editor, and he sees games in a different way. It's like, okay, like we're trying to figure out how to explore that more on Retro Rebound than anything. But when it comes to delegating, have you guys had that moment yet where like you both really want to review something and you're like, how do we split this up? Like, have you guys had that yet? Or has it just been like a benefit of time? Like, yep, bro, you take that. I can use the free time. Like, have you had any moments where you've had to make a tough call?
I personally haven't. In terms of yeah, no, Austin and I have just always worked that out. We've only been doing it for a few months, so maybe that will come at some point. But if Austin says to me, I want to review Guild Wars 2, I'm like, have fun with that, my dude, but if he was to say to me, I really want to do the Cyberpunk expansion, I'd be like, I don't know about that one,
That's when you pull the I'm the boss card.
Yeah, I think that's it. But I think that's also a reality of what this is. I mean, like, we have these channels, and we have built them, and we want to be able to talk about the things that we want. And like, that's, I guess, part of it. Sometimes I'm sure we're just going to straight up pull rank and be like, no, I am covering the next FromSoft game, even though we might both equally love it. But also I think there's the scope to both have our say on it in some way. Like, for example, Prince of Persia, we've got a preview coming up this week, and both of us actually played the preview, and we're going to do the preview together because we both want to talk about it. So I think there's also scope for that as well. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's also about working with people that you really like and trust, and you're not going to have that kind of like conflict with. And Austin is, just a fantastic guy. He's awesome to work with.
Yeah, I actually like him better. He's really cool.
He's way better than me. Way better. So I completely.
It's amazing how similar both your like cadence and like the way you approach your content. It's scary, man.
I feel, well, the poor guy's been editing my voice for like 4 years straight. So I think unfortunately he's absorbed how I talk.
Like your humor and everything. I'm like,
yeah,
did you just clone yourself, dude?
He's a significantly younger, more handsome version of me. Yes.
All right, Jake, anything on your end before I move us along to the final thing?
Retro Rebound is really good. Keep doing that.
Oh, thank you.
I like seeing like how you tackle things. Your output is insane. And it's cool.
Thank you.
So just keep doing that. For me, I'm just I'm still trying to also do the like, I'm doing some for the algorithm, and then I'm doing some for me.
It's such a
which
hard
has been really healthy and really good. I know it's hard. And I have the privilege of kind of like having multiple jobs. So on my channel, I can fuck around a little bit and find out. Okay, Grand Theft Auto 6, like, let's make that video. Like, I'm excited to talk about Grand Theft Auto 6, but that's like, okay, here's the one that pays the bills. And then the other day I put out a video about Doom 1993 that like nobody watched, and I was so happy because I made what I really wanted to make. And I also was able to, I'm fortunate enough to have behind me like where I'm like, I don't know if a lot of people are going to watch this, but the people who do are going to have a good time with me.
Yeah, and that's it. It's important.
It's nice.
And at least those cool moments, like I was so impressed, like how you had a video on City Skylines 2 do as well as it did. I was like, wow, like how is that?
Thank you.
Possible?
Yeah, because it's a weird game. You wouldn't think it would pop off like that.
Right.
Yeah, we get lucky sometimes.
Yeah, of course. But it's a testament to how loved you are, right? Like people want to watch your stuff, want to hear your thoughts on things, and the same goes for Ralph. And so yeah, it's always interesting to hear your guys' process on things. I just wanted to close things out here. I just want to know what you guys are looking forward to next year. I mean, I know there's a whole slate of games yet to be announced that I'm sure will excite us. But with what we do know, Ralph, for you, is there anything that like you're really keen on, or are you kind of just biding your time now until something more exciting is announced?
Yeah, excuse me. To be perfectly honest, there's nothing that really jumps out at me as being like, oh shit, I need this right now, please. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I mean, obviously the Final Fantasy Rebirth, sure. I'm excited for it. Don't get me wrong. Looks great. I'm sure I'm gonna love it. I loved 7 Remake originally. But I know it's coming. And I guess as well, my overall philosophy to these sorts of things has changed a lot because yeah, I don't know. I find myself getting less like excited for games that are coming up because I'm really just enjoying what I'm playing now, and I have a lot on my plate at any given moment. I'm like, well, we'll get excited for that later when it's time to get excited about it. For right now, I'm like playing Lego Fortnite, and I'm like, damn, man, Lego Fortnite fucking rules. What the hell, man? It's crazy shit. And like, I booted up. I don't know why I'm talking about Lego so much, but I booted up Lego Bricktales on my MetaQuest 3 headset. And I'm like, this is super good. I don't know if anyone has seen what that
I've
is.
never even heard of that.
Yeah, so it's like imagine like it's mixed reality, and you put the headset on, and you can still see your living room or whatever, but you've got these Lego dioramas in front of you that are full of puzzles, and you're like, I need to build a bridge. And so you can actually pick up this whole diorama and like put it on your coffee table, for example. You can lean in and get close to it, and then it's like, oh, the puzzle is to build a bridge. And so it puts you then into this build mode where you pick up the pieces of Lego and you build a bridge, and then that helps you progress. It's so good. Like, it really is excellent. And then obviously there's stuff like the Steam Deck, the OLED, which has really like breathed new life into that machine. I think the handheld PC category is so interesting. Like, I guess what I'm saying is there's all this stuff in front of me that I'm just enjoying right now. And I always feel like my backlog is so massive. I'm looking back on it and like, damn, I haven't even properly played Cocoon yet, I haven't played Armored Core yet, and that's like at the very top of my backlog.
Dave the Diver for me.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
and I'm like 10 hours into Dave the Diver, haven't finished it. Same goes for Dredge, I guess I'm always more excited about my backlog than I am what's coming out, because what's coming out is like, let's worry about that tomorrow. But my backlog I'm looking at all the time. I'm like, damn, man, I know I'm going to have a fantastic time when I make time for that thing. And so, yeah, that's probably weirdly enough how I'd answer that question. I'm like, next year, not so much, but what we have in front of us right now is really cool. And also, I think what we have behind us is always worth digging into.
How about you, Jake? Is there something you're looking forward to, or is it just kind of like where Ralph is at right now, like biding your time, backlog catch up? You're perfectly
It is
content.
interesting. I just shot my most anticipated 2024, like looking forward video, and there aren't a lot of like crazy barnstormers, like just like drop everything, holy shit games. It seems like there's going to be a lot of good games, but for me, it's probably Hellblade 2,
Sure.
just because again, I like games where you kill things and you walk forward and a cutscene happens and then you kill more things. But really just the presentation of that game. I said it on the Friends Per Second podcast, but like there's not really there's like movies and cool stuff that's like has that grit, but there's no games that has that type of presentation. So I'm ready to just get back in that world because I love the original game. And then Frostpunk 2 should be dropping this year, I think. And I really like the first one because you're building cities, but it's depressing. And
nice.
So I'm excited for more of that. I actually don't know too much about it. I haven't been looking at news because I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'm ready to just jump in cold turkey and be surprised. And then the rest of the stuff for the year for me is like, I'm curious to see if it's going to come out, like Vampire the Masquerade's Bloodlines 2.
Oh boy.
And like, The Wolf Among Us 2.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's slated for next year. Oh boy.
Yeah, that was slated for next year. And Telltale, after those layoffs, said like, no, we're still working on it.
Yeah.
But, and then seeing if Suicide Squad is actually good. So the thing I'm kind of looking forward to the most next year is like some of those questions being answered.
Yeah, Suicide Squad, I'm so mixed on right now. It's funny you bring that up. I'm so mixed on it. Like there's this part of me, it's like, no, this gameplay is disgrace. This should never be like this. You invented free flow. Like, why are you shooting people now? But then part of me is like, you see the presentation quality and the cutscenes, and I'm like, this is so rock steady. Like, man, do they get it? And it's
Sure.
like I'm just not gonna. I'm going in neutral. It's like I don't expect greatness here, but I'm not expecting something awful, which I guess is a step forward from where we once were.
Yeah.
For me, I look at the upcoming slate of games, and I feel like if you're a JRPG fan, like the first half of the year has got to be like super exciting, which is
Oh yeah.
the pocket I happen to fall in, unfortunately, because like you got Sega, who's like, let's put the new Yakuza game and Persona 3 Real like a week apart from each other. Like
Oof,
that's going to be a
Sure.
great idea for us here.
it's a lot of game.
But for me, like the big one, like like a lot of people have really enjoyed modern Capcom, and I have too. Like they've just been putting out stellar stuff, but it's I haven't had that series yet. Like I'm a huge Mega Man X fan and a Dragon's Dogma fan, and so like I love Resident Evil, and I have a place in my heart for it, but it's not like adoration. So like seeing Dragon's Dogma 2 and like how true to the original it is, and it's kind of hate to use the word, but kind of like the jank of the combat. It's not like super clean. But then the scale that they're doing it at, where you see this huge Titan walking through a bridge, I'm like, this is so cool, man. So I love that they're like investing everything in this otherwise, like kind of like a cult classic. Like it's known enough. Like it got itself a re-release in Dark Arisen. It got itself an anime. So like it's got to have something going on, but it's definitely not. When I go like, what's your favorite fantasy RPG? Most people are like, Skyrim. Like it's like you don't think Dragon's Dogma off the bat. So I'm like really happy to see that Capcom is not just going to the cash cows we know of like Monster Hunter and Resident Evil, but like they're giving a lot of love to Dragon's Dogma, at least based on what we've seen thus far. Like I think Dragon's Dogma 2 looks really awesome. And on the new IP front, it's apparently coming out fall next year. It's from the team behind Persona. That Metaphor ReFantazio game, I
Oh
think
yeah.
looks really cool.
That
Like
looks
Yeah.
nuts.
this mixture of like action combat and turn-based combat and Persona element and like becoming a king. I'm like, this I feel can bring like one thing I think turns a lot of people off from Persona is like you're a teenager in the school, and eventually you kind of just feel a little weird playing it when like you're a grown adult. So like everyone can relate to wanting to be a king and like having this whole fantasy adventure. Like I feel like it's their response to Fire Emblem almost, because Fire Emblem's like really encroached on all of the elements that make Persona and just brought them in, and like now Fire Emblem's more popular than ever. So I feel like the Persona team saw that. It was like, oh, okay, cool. You guys do that. Like, we're gonna go do this now. See, I'm really excited for both of those, but like it's a pretty short list.
Mm.
And I'm hoping that Xbox, really has uh that kind of big blockbuster that they've been looking for. Not that Starfield wasn't that, but I think a lot of fans have been looking for that, if you will, PlayStation style exclusive. And you brought up Hellblade 2 earlier, Jake. And like I think that's kind of the answer, like this finely crafted The Last of Us kind of experience. I mean, that trailer that they put at the Game Awards was like powerful to me. I was like, that acting was so intense and
Yeah.
felt like the stakes were so high. And I loved the first one. I mean, I only played it once, got the platinum trophy, but I was totally happy with it. And so
Do
to
you
see like
do
how
you
much
see
they're
it as a
scaling up.
blockbuster? Because like if it looks a lot like the first one, where it's weird as fuck
Yeah.
and like abstract.
Yeah.
You think it's gonna like pop off?
Sales wise, it's tough to say. Like I think quality wise, like I think it'll be the reviews. Like if the reviews of these, it's like the critical darling, right? Because like even though Starfield has been a monstrous success for Xbox, like you look at the sales, like it's a top 7 selling game, top 10, something in that range. Like it's up there, it's doing really well, but like the conversation around it's obviously shit. Like I feel for this game, like if it's the critical darling, like yeah, 90 plus, like go out, get it. Like it's awesome. Like that kind of trust me, bro, buy that you kind of do. I think that's where it can pop off. I don't know how well did we have that information off the top of our head, like how well the first Hellblade did? Because I
No
know it was
idea.
like celebrated as this $20 indie gem,
Mm.
but obviously it's expecting to do much more now. It's like a $70 first party game. So like I'm curious to see how they evolve. But I mean, that's how I view it. Like if it's going to be a blockbuster, I think it's going to really come down to like the critical success of it, kind of calling eyes to like, oh, this is like not
Yeah.
just any other game.
It's interesting that it's like it's switching to a blockbuster $70 full priced game,
Right? Like
considering it's
hugely.
like its core is very like a simple game. What if they
Yeah.
add co-op to it,
But
like
I
in
think
like it's
also,
the mid 2000s? Let's do it. Just give it a co-op mode. Fuck it. It needs multiplayer.
yeah. But I think framing it as like the $70 thing is it's a Game Pass game, right? And so
Sure.
framing it as like the $70 blockbuster, yes and no. I mean, I suspect it isn't that. I suspect it isn't 30 hours long. That's a guess, obviously.
Yeah.
I suspect it's
Yeah.
probably going to be like a tight 10 to 15 still. And its value is going to be in its presentation and its themes and narrative and yeah, people will play it on Game Pass, and I think if it hits, it hits. And I think people will be talking less about the price point and more about its like impact, you know?
I'm glad you bring that up because I'm still like, I still struggle to talk like to try and frame things or think about things like
So many
that
price structures now.
because it's
Yeah.
weird. But
It
that's
is.
how it is now. That's the future.
Yeah, like you have to do two verdicts now. Like if it's on Game Pass, it's like, yeah, go download it, but don't buy it. Or like, yeah, you can just go buy it straight up. Like it's fine. Yeah, it's got to size all of that up.
Yeah.
Anyway, gents, I appreciate your time. I know we went a little bit longer than we originally planned, so I really appreciate you guys bearing with me here. I had a blast. Naturally, I'm sure anyone who's watching this has already heard of you folks, but if you have not, these are my favorite channels to watch. Like they are phenomenal what they do. I swear to God, I'm not just saying it because you guys are here. I've said it on shows where you guys are not there. Like I always recommend you two for anything game conversation. You know, Ralph, you and I have talked off the show and whatnot about like, you know, being a good voice, being a responsible voice. And, you know, sometimes that's not saying the easy things. And I think you both do a phenomenal job at that. So their stuff will be linked down below, from Game Ranks to Jake Baldino's channel to Skill Up. You can check it all out. It's all phenomenal stuff. If you've not given it a chance, please do so. There's a reason why I wanted to invite them in specifically. They have wonderful conversations. I appreciate you guys immensely for coming on board. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Always good chatting with you as well.
Thanks for having us. This was good practice because I didn't record my Game of the Year video yet.
I
kind of like warmed
I
up.
still got to write mine
muscles
as well. Oh my god, yes.
Mine's done, so I'm good on that. Yeah,
for
so
you.
I was all rehearsed. Yeah.
Respect.
Because to me, it like draws that cutoff line. It's like, okay, now I can just go to my backlog now. So I feel a little more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, appreciate it. Everyone, links down below. Please check them out, and we'll catch you in the next video. So peace out.
See you, man.